Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Hobson, and we're doing actually the Nasdaq today. The Nasdaq for me is look like it's gonna fly, as I explained last week to you. But also with good news with the Nasdaq is that the 30-year bond yield is actually collapsing. It's actually below 2%. The 10-year, the last time I checked, it was on 1.4. Now, as I explained the last time, that because of the bond yields that are low, they don't expect actually inflation. Look, the bond guys are actually, the bond vigilantes are actually very spot on. I mean, they actually predicted the 2008 recession. So if these guys are seeing something, they're gonna do what the bond guys are doing. For example, that's why the bond yields are going down and the bond prices are actually going up. So you have to follow your bond market so that you know which trend to follow. And that's why I can say actually that the Nasdaq will actually go up because of the bond yields that are actually going down. That is a very strong correlation. As you could see a few months ago, the bond yields were high. Everybody was afraid of inflation, and that actually pushed down the Nasdaq. But for now, the Nasdaq looks on top shape to go to 15,000. Look, these things will not happen now in one day, obviously not. So it will take time, but I'm definitely bullish on the Nasdaq because of the 30-year bond yield that actually were announced today, that is actually below 2%. And also the 10-year is actually, I think the last time I checked, it was on 1.4, 1.42. So those are good signs for the Nasdaq, because the guys that are actually in innovation and needs to build new things, they need a lot of capital. And obviously, if capital is cheap because of the bond yields or the yields that are low, they don't expect inflation, that is good for these guys because they need a lot of money. They need to borrow a lot of money to build stuff. Honestly, companies like Apple, for example, Apple is more of a defensive stock, I would say. They will not now produce something significant like your Elon Musk of the world. The guys that are really crazy, like myself as well, who's building something very crazy. Those are the stocks that you need to look at, and that's why I say the Nasdaq, because of its innovation, fourth industrial revolution. Those are the things that for me that makes sense, and that helps a lot if the bond yields are going down. Also, very importantly, Bitcoin is sitting at 30,000. I know I was also talking bullish about Bitcoin. Look, it's not as things are breaking apart in Nasdaq. It's sitting between 30 and 40,000. It's sitting there in that range. Maybe it's gonna go a bit lower, but I don't think it will actually burst like the last time when it actually fell from 20,000 and just collapsed. I don't think that will happen, although it's 50% down. But it's not that it was like back then where it just went straight down. The Bitcoin is very stable for me now between 30 and 40,000. I think maybe it will go to 20. That is a big maybe. But the big thing is actually tomorrow. You must don't even think of forgetting tomorrow. I will go over it again, and to remind you, 8 o'clock tomorrow, Jerome Powell is testifying. Now, I think that is the whole thing why the Bitcoin is actually going a bit down on 30,000. Maybe it can break the 30,000 mark and go to 20. I think that because of Jerome Powell that testifies tomorrow. Now, I personally think he's beating down the commodities based for inflation, talking bullish and hawkish for actually the dollar to strengthen, and that is actually where the Bitcoin is actually losing its steam. I think that is the whole thing. I think we can see a bloodbath maybe for tomorrow, because last week as well, one of the Fed members were testifying, and I think it was about 2 o'clock when he was talking, and he was talking about inflation. There is a bit of a problem in the United States, and they need actually now to start. What he said actually, they actually were talking about tapering. They opened up the conversation for tapering. So that actually changed the dollar. That later in the evening, I think it was about 2 o'clock, at 5, 6 o'clock, there the dollar turned and there it went up. I think the same story is going to happen tomorrow. He's going to talk about inflation. He's going to talk bullish about the dollar, in favor of the dollar, and that will actually create a bloodbath for the commodities. I think commodities will actually fall tomorrow. I think he will talk the same story as the last time. The Dow Jones will definitely go down, but not the Nasdaq. Look, the bond guys always get, not always, but most of the time, the big occasions they get right, and especially this one. And I think definitely the bond guys are right. Bond yields are going down. There's no inflation. I think the Federal Reserve is just playing games by actually talking about lifting up the interest rates. I think they just want commodities down and a dollar stronger to keep inflation at bay. But I don't think they will lift up the interest rates. But for now, what I know, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, please don't forget it. I think Jerome Powell is going to beat down commodities tomorrow, push up the dollar, and that will also bring down the Dow Jones. So please don't forget tomorrow. But I'm bullish with the Nasdaq for the long term. I think it's going to definitely go to 15,000. It will not happen in one day, but definitely I'm in favor with the Nasdaq as long as the bond yields, and please don't forget what I'm saying, as long as the bond yields are going down, I'm in favor of the Nasdaq. So that is it from my side. I will see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I will definitely do the Federal Reserve for you tomorrow. Bye-bye.